Our planet already has more connected devices than it has people, and IoT has the potential to reshape the way we produce, consume, and live. We can already see this in nearly every aspect of our lives, ranging from more conscious energy consumption to product traceability to connected healthcare. AddSecure is a leading European provider of IoT connectivity and end-to-end solutions with a focus on secure critical communications and data. Being ranked #1 on the Financial Times Europe Top 500 Climate Leaders list highlights sustainability as a key priority for Tele2. Our goal is to achieve net zero emissions in our operations and value chain by 2035. Please welcome Johanna Georgi and Eric Votrich to the stage.
Johanna, Eric, welcome on stage, and I'm so excited that we have one of our last panels to wrap up the day dedicated to sustainability. And what I feel is that AddSecure and Tele2 are very much in the forefront of the sustainable thinking. Maybe, Johanna, you can introduce a little bit yourself and the things you are doing in AddSecure in regards to sustainability.
Right. So I'm heading the sustainability work of AddSecure. And AddSecure is an IoT provider. We work with secure IoT connectivity and end-to-end solutions. So what we also do, or what is talking for AddSecure, is that we grow a lot, and we grow by acquisitions. And we've seen a lot of use cases here today speaking about what can you do with IoT, and the answer is you can do pretty much whatever. And that is significant also for, I would say, our CEO, who has been growing the company since the last 10 years. From around 60 people to around 1,000 people today, and we have use cases within alarms, elderly care, transport, mobility, power grids, personal alarms. No,
yeah.
I think it's not working.
Do we have a mic problem, or is it working now? I hope it is. No?
I think it is. I can't find myself.
Just 1 second. Oh, that happens sometimes.
Thank you. So yeah, I would say AddSecure is really much into IoT and pretty much wherever, whenever. And when we speak about sustainability, it's really about what can we do with our solutions? How is it that we can help our customers become more efficient, better optimize their operations, and to help them achieve better results?
For us, it's also a big pleasure to have AddSecure as such a growing customer and stuff. From the very, very early years of IoT, we have been working for you, so this exponential growth in the last year has been nothing less than a pleasure. Now, Eric, over to you, talking about Tele2 and sustainability. What are we doing there, and what are we doing right?
Well, I think it was a great introduction here as well. We have the ambition to lead in sustainability, and we're beginning to see some great results of the efforts that we put in the last few years, not least the Climate Leaders in Europe 2023 that we got from the Financial Times. But we've set an ambitious sustainability strategy with 4 focus areas that we have been delivering on for the past 3 years. And to build on what you said as well, I think that even though there are a lot of things that we can do ourselves, the most important and the biggest impact that I think that we can have is through enabling a transition for our customers and consumers.
And just to elaborate on this one a little bit more, especially for those of you here today, we have this beautiful magazine called Simply Connected, and in the cover, just so that you can take one page and take it home. If there's one page you take this one. It's called Tele2's Path to Net Zero, and it's basically showing what Eric is going to do in the next 7 years. So maybe, Eric, you can tell us a little bit more about this path.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've set very ambitious science-based targets to reduce our negative climate impact, and set 2035 as our target year for net zero emissions. The biggest part of our emissions at the moment are in our value chain, almost 99% of our emissions, and the biggest part of that is with our suppliers. There are several keys for us to achieve that, but if I can push one, I would definitely say that it's circular economy and enabling a more circular flow of resources.
Wonderful. Since we started talking about like 2030 and the path, Johanna, maybe in a couple of words you can also tell what's your ideas there in AddSecure in regards to the upcoming years.
In terms of sustainability?
Yes.
Well, obviously, when it comes to emissions, I think it's one of the issues or the topics that is sort of overtaking the whole area of sustainability, more or less. Circular economy is definitely the one growing and obviously has a great part in diminishing emissions. For us, I think it's going to be about, we just started there and we're working on it for about a year now as a pilot project to start estimating the net impact of our own solutions. That is to say, if you would buy a solution from AddSecure and we would say, well, we can save you this amount of emissions, how would you know that is true?
Well, we trust you.
I mean, Eric might say, oh, we can do that more efficiently. How would you know how to compare the two? You may buy an avocado or banana, you wouldn't know, because there is really no standard to that. I think that's one thing that we're working with. It's to find a way to actually estimate net impact of IoT solutions, and also to establish then some sort of standards so we could enable actually sort of transparency between different solutions.
And you're doing that obviously because, well, we as the companies have the responsibility to do so, but also because the consumers want to know how can they do some kind of a sustainable impact in their things. So the question here, coming back to the topic, is that when we talk about the sustainability in general, we have seen a very big transition here. Before that, I think companies were doing that just for doing, but now it seems that they're making it more serious. Now, tell me a little bit more about what is your perception in that regard? Are companies really more serious about sustainability these days, or is the greenwashing trend continuing?
I can start with that. One thing I think we heard a bit of today is that the regulation in terms of sustainability and ESG data is increasing. So basically, more or less, any company will need to report on sustainability. It used to be about, I think the regulation was you need to publish a sustainability report. The content could be pretty much whatever. And what's happening now is you're starting to treat ESG data with the same sort of suspicion as you do with financial data. So there's a standard to it. So that's one thing. So it's becoming regulated and it's becoming standardized. But then I would say drivers, yeah, you get then that from customers because they also need to report on their ESG data. So I think there it is to facilitate that and not to drown in administration. Connected devices, sensors and so on, to just provide that data. I think there was some of the other speakers who were into that as well, is becoming key.
Yeah, and I think, we're definitely on a journey from the very sort of compliance-driven sustainability approach where we've kind of progressed a few years ago maybe towards a lot of communication, but maybe not a lot of content. And as Johanna was saying, I think that the new regulation that we have that is coming in is going to increase transparency, and it's going to make it very difficult for companies to greenwash in what they do, because we will all be measured, at least European companies will be measured according to the same standard. And then I also think that, we see more and more that both employees, future employees, investors and customers are putting sustainability higher on their agenda, including it in their sort of preference of which company that they want to work for, invest in, or buy from.
And since you have been talking about regulation, an interesting question that pops up to my mind is how do you actually even benchmark the company's efforts in that regard? I know, Eric, you mentioned the Financial Times benchmarking. How does that actually work in practice? And maybe you can tell us a bit more.
In terms of ESG ratings, there are quite a few out there, and I think it's difficult for all companies to engage with all of them. So you have to try to focus on the ones that you think give you the best opportunity and the best measures to be evaluated to according. But I also really hope that with the new regulation on reporting, where all companies will be forced to report on the same data and it will be specified how they do it, that it will become easier for customers to evaluate based on the data that comes directly from the companies. Because today that can be difficult still in the sustainability reports, but I think and that's a clear aim with the new reporting regulation as well, to make it easier to compare.
And in this rating, what I have noticed is that Tele2 was ranked #1, but in general, there were a lot of Swedish companies at the top. And maybe, Johanna, the question to you, because you are also the chair in Tech Sverige, what really makes Sweden stand out and the Swedish companies stand out in regards to their sustainability efforts?
I think sustainability has been a topic in Swedish companies for quite a long time. I think it's something that's been driven, so we're quite mature in the area. So when it comes to then assessing our work, we have the processes in place, we have the people in place to drive that. I think maturity is one part of it. But what lots of people say now is that we're falling behind, and that may be, our ability to apply technology to find the new solutions, and it's about the innovation and again the impact of the actual solutions. So I'm thinking like in ESG governance, this is something that we've been doing for a long time. It's quite close to the sort of Nordic soul on how you want to do things and so on. But I think in the innovation part, it may be more of a challenge.
So. And we have a lot of different people here. Some of them come from bigger companies. Some of them come from smaller, different regions, different contexts and stuff. Let's go maybe for some practical recommendation. If I am a company or I'm a founder of a smaller company and I want to take sustainability serious, where should I start, Eric?
I think the most important, or the starting point for you should really be on where do I have the biggest impact? And we should really try to focus our efforts on the most material topics, the topics where you can have the biggest impact. There's no point in trying to do a little bit of everything, because then you'll be completely scattered. If you're really good at something and that's something that can have a really positive effect, maybe an exponential effect, focus on that and don't try to do sort of everything. Of course, there are some compliance topics that we all have to, make sure that you don't break the law. But other than that, try to really focus your efforts on where you can have the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you can bring some examples from Tele2 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone through that process again now of evaluating which are the areas where we can have the biggest impact. And we build our whole strategy on the 4 focus areas that we have set in our sustainability strategy on circular economy, innovation, diversity and inclusion, and protecting children in a connected society, is based on that. We think that these are the 4 areas where we can have the biggest impact.
Okay, wonderful. And what about AddSecure?
Well, I would agree with Eric to concentrate and focus on what's important to you and to understand your own business. And I think what's coming now is to understand what has the potentially biggest impact on you as a company, but also where you as a company has the biggest opportunity. And what we say at AddSecure, and the topic that I'm trying desperately to bring in as a sustainability topic, as if the area wasn't broad enough as it is security and information security. And I think we've touched upon it every now and then during the day. It's essentially about our ability to deliver on the potential of IoT. If we're not able to secure the communication and secure the data and make sure that it's according to standards when it comes to privacy and so on, we're really sort of constructing more problems than we can solve. So even if we have the smartest solutions out there that can help us lower the emissions, if it's not built on secure communications, we're creating greater problems than we already have.
Yes, and there is also another interesting aspect to that, because I would say most of the panelists today, they have been talking about how their solutions are becoming more data thirsty, and we're consuming more data. And then, of course, we have AWS here, and their servers are quite warm, I guess, right now, processing all this data. So how do we take that in consideration?
That is one of the focus areas, I would say, for most tech companies, understanding that at least, even if it's less than many think, I think it's a question as a tech company you receive a lot to be able to say, like, this is what it costs in terms of energy use to apply the solution. And again, it's a question that we receive from our customers. What does it cost by us to use your solutions? It goes back to, I think we heard before, it's about making sure that we have a sustainable power grid built on fossil-free energy, and that we also have software that is as efficient as possible. So I think it comes down to that. It's really about smart and efficient business, because usually we would pay for that data. So I think businesses have an interest in their own, even if it wouldn't be for the sake of sustainability. There is a business case for this.
Sure. Eric, do you have anything to add on this one?
Yeah, just really briefly that I think it's interesting to note that data centers also account for between 1% and 2% of the global energy use.
Yeah, so it's massive, honestly. Now, another question about AddSecure, because I think that you represent a very interesting niche there. You have some of the fleet management solutions. You also have some security solutions. Some of them are consuming more data, some of them are less. So how do you target the sustainability efforts there, even though the use cases are a little bit different?
What I do is I try to target our product managers. That's what I do. So I build our sustainability system and the data system and the reporting system going down to the products. So what we do is that we collect the data. When I say I want to know how much energy does this solution cost, I mentioned that we're trying to calculate the net impact of our solutions. Well, it comes down to us being able to identify how much does this product cost in terms of data, storage, and so on. So what I do is I go to the product managers and ask them, okay, so who are you using? What data center do you have? Can you please have them provide this information for us? At the time being, data centers in general are quite poor at delivering data, to be honest. They are better in the Nordics. But that's something I think will change because I think there's a pressure from their customers to deliver this information and the insights. So I'm confident it's going to change, but at the time being, it's sort of like a gap in our books to a large extent.
And I also now remembered you also had this eco-driving initiative, right? Maybe you can tell in a few words.
Well, it's within our transport solutions, smart transport solutions. What we do we have as an instant feedback to drivers driving trucks, where they get information about how to better drive to save fuel. And we created a competition. So we are inviting our customers to enter this competition, and the one saving the most fuel wins.
Wonderful. Now, I would like actually to wrap up the session with one final, but probably longer question here. If you would have an opportunity to have one important message there to all the directors and CEOs in the IoT industry in regards to their sustainability efforts, what would that be?
Shall I?
Yep.
I'll give you some more time to think of that, of the answer. I think I think the enablement effect of IoT is massive, and I think that's fantastic. And I think that we've seen examples of that today. We need scaled up IoT solutions to solve some of the big challenges that we are facing. But as we were touching upon now here at the end, I think it's important to also be mindful of the negative impact that we can have. So how does it impact our energy consumption? How does it impact CO2 emissions? And one area that I think that we both have in the crystal ball, is there a human rights impact to the work that we're doing? What are the working conditions in the value chain for the hardware that we are producing and using to create the services that we are selling? I think those would be the things that I would send off with.
Great.
Well, it's sort of on the same point I think I'm making, but I would say if you see the connection between sustainability and IoT or tech, I would say IoT tech is the enabler. Without it, it's the basic infrastructure needed to do things differently. And to achieve a more sustainable society, change is needed. It's like transformative. How can we do things differently? That being said, it also goes back to the tech companies. What type of change do you want to be part of? So I think the question goes both ways. There's a lot of things you can do with tech and IoT that's really rather useless. And I think having that tough question to yourself, like what is it that the world really needs? That is a question you should actually really sort of painful question for some companies, but that's a useful question to ask yourself.
Absolutely. I'll put myself in the spotlight as well. And my message here, my 1 second of fame, is you come to your service providers and you ask them your sustainability questions. And if they're able to give as good answers as Eric and Joanna, then I think that's the right one, right? So I think we have actually some time for questions from our digital audience. Joanna, what's going on?
Well, thank you so much, first of all. And you touched upon this a bit, but I got a few comments and questions in regards to smaller companies and startups. They're saying that addressing sustainability regulations can sometimes be a burden. And you gave us a few tips and tricks, but I'm looking into technology. Is there any way that can help them address that?
There's a lot of technologies. I think that's one of the issues that companies are asking now. What is that software that I can use to manage ESG data? And there's a lot on the market. I think the one advice I would give is to really look into it. And the more they promise, the more careful you would be. As with any technological solution, know what it is what you want to achieve, because that's how you choose your technology, not what the technology proposes to you, but what you want and what your needs should be in the forefront.
Yeah, and I can just say, if you're based in the EU and you will be affected by CSRD, the new reporting regulation, at some point, if you're a smaller company, that's not going to be next year as it is for us, but start preparing now. Don't wait, because it is a long process.
Wonderful. And you can probably learn more about the Tele2 and AddSecure sustainability efforts online. Or for those of you here, you can probably catch Joanna and Eric in the innovation area. Guys, thank you so much for those wonderful insights. Let's give a hand to Eric and Joanna again.
Thank you.